up, you guys? Welcome back to the channel. I know I'm not wearing a hat. I actually just recently got a haircut. I don't really know what's going on with my hair, but I'm just gonna go with it. So in today's video, I want to talk a little bit kind of about motivation. Recently, I did a little video on my Instagram and it seemed like it kind of resonated with a lot of people. A lot of people had their own things they wanted to say about it, so I felt like I should kind of expand on it a little bit in this video. So before we go any further, I want to bring up a quote that I have really been liking. So the quote goes as follows. It says, "The fact that you're not where you want to be should be motivation enough." And for me, that exactly explains where I get my motivation. The reason that I say that is because a lot of people that are either, they want to lose a lot of weight, they're in the middle of losing a lot of weight, or they have lost a lot of weight. I feel like there's this misconception that you're living in fear of being who you were before, right? So you're always going like saying like, I would always be in fear or be afraid of being 360 pounds again, so I always have to find motivation to just not go back there, right? I always have to find motivation to just keep going and trying to keep the weight off, right? Like, it's basically like, you have to find motivation to not go back to where you were. And when I think of that, like, I think if I were to think like that all the time and that was literally like how I live my life, I feel like I would be living in this state of fear. I would always be afraid of the person that I was, and I would be afraid to go back there. But I can say that, like, without a doubt, I honestly and 100% believe that I will never be that 360 pound person again. I know what I would have to do and what I'd have to stop doing. All of the things that I love, I would basically just have to stop that to become that 360 pound person again. So in my head, I honestly I know that I will never go back there. So for me, motivation is never coming from fear of that person or fear of my past or fear of backsliding and becoming that again. For me, motivation comes from the future and like knowing that, yeah, I've accomplished all of this, but I know there's so much more that I could accomplish. So I'm not afraid to go back to where I was. It's more like I live in a state of excitement. I'm excited to be where I can be in a year or in 2 years. Like, that is where I get my motivation. If I was just literally working out so I wouldn't go back to where I was, like, I feel like my motivation would just go away, because the fact, like, just being afraid, I just feel like there's not much motivation that you can get out of that. I understand that this is probably not going to relate to everybody right away, because I understand, like, if you just started losing weight like a month ago, that former person is going to be not that far away, so it's going to be one of those things where you're like, I don't want to go back there. I understand that. But the reason that I bring this up is because hopefully if you are losing weight, you are planning on getting to the point where you have lost most of the weight that you want to lose, or you've lost all the weight that you want to lose, or you've hit your goal weight, or whatever it might be. The reason that I bring this up is because I think that it's important for when you are losing the weight, and especially when you're getting closer to that weight that you maybe set for yourself, to start switching those goals. Instead of just worrying about the number on the scale and how much weight you can lose, start like making performance goals, other things that you can focus on, because like I've said before, you will not be losing weight forever. It's just like, especially if you're doing it right? You're not going to be losing weight forever. You will hit a point where losing more weight will probably not be the best thing. So if you're able to switch that focus to more performance-based things, whether it's like, going on better runs, or getting a better time in a workout, or getting a better PR, whatever it might be, whatever it is for you, if you're able to switch that, I feel it is so much easier to stay motivated when you are losing weight, and especially when it comes to post weight loss, after you've lost the weight, the life that you're going to be living then. Because if your post weight loss life is dictated only by not going back to where you were, the thing that I've noticed, and I've had so many friends and so many different people that I've worked with and that I've became friends with over the internet that have lost a lot of weight, and in their mind I could just tell, especially in their posts and just the way that they would go about life, all they cared about and all they thought about was not going back to where they were. What I've noticed with most of those people, I'm not saying everybody, but with most of those people, is they actually do end up doing exactly what they were trying to avoid. Now, for me, I have my own theories as to why that happens. What I believe the main culprit is because they didn't take the time. Again, this is just my opinion. But most of the time it's because they didn't take the time to understand why they're losing weight. Understand how many calories they should be eating to lose weight. A lot of times they drastically reduce calories to where they're eating not enough calories, so then their body like gets used to eating, say it's 700 calories, and then what do you do when you lose all the weight? Like, are you gonna eat 700 calories for the rest of your life? Probably not. But if you're someone that did that, yeah, of course you're gonna be afraid of going back to where you were because your body is only, like, you're only eating 700 calories, like your body is starving. So yes, I can understand why you would be terrified of going back to where you were, because in your mind, what you're doing doesn't seem sustainable. It doesn't seem like something that you want to do in 5 to 10 years. So yes, being afraid of who you were and what you were before is definitely gonna be more apparent. Like for me, I'm not worried about that at all because I can eat a lot more calories than that, and I can, you know, I have all of these other goals that are not related to weight loss in any capacity at all that I'm able to strive for, and in return, you know, it's things that are making me more fit anyways. So it's like my whole mindset has shifted from weight loss to performance. And that for me has been so important when it comes to keeping the weight off, but not just keeping the weight off, going even further than just losing weight to trying to become like someone that people would think is as fit. Again, I am not trying to talk down or make anyone feel bad, but I think it is so important from the very beginning, right when you start losing weight, to understand as much as you possibly can about why you're losing weight, how your body is reacting to it, like why these things are happening to your body, because you will have all of that knowledge when you end up actually losing all of the weight, and you won't be to this point where you're like, well, I've lost all this weight, but I did this really crazy diet that only had me eating 700 calories. Now what do I do, right? You will have all of that knowledge. You will have been like, I lost weight in a healthy way, like I tracked everything, I made sure that I was doing it in a healthy manner, because when you do lose the weight, you'll be able to be like, okay, now I want to shift my focus to maybe gaining more muscle, and then you'll be able to maybe add more calories, and the thought of you being like, I'm afraid of gaining the weight back, it won't be like this scary thought of, oh my gosh, all weight gain is a terrible thing. Anything other than me losing weight is bad, right? That's not how I want people to think. You should think of like, I want to get better at this or that, whatever it might be, instead of just like, I don't want to be heavy again. Basically, I think a good way to think of it is, instead of being reactive to maybe, you know, gaining a little bit of weight or looking at the scale and always trying to react to those things that are happening, try and be proactive. How can I increase my mile time? How can I get better at this lift? How can I get better at this exercise? How can I get a little bit more fit? Now, a way that I kind of like to think of it is like, think of like maybe like a graph or like a timeline or whatever you want to call it. So think about over here is obesity, morbid obesity, like basically where you started from, right? Where I started from is on the very end of this graph. And then on this very other side is being as fit as humanly possible, like the most fit person in the world, right? So in your head, especially for me, when I first started working out here, I was not thinking that I would ever get to here or even get close to here. I understand that. But basically, I just wanted to lose a little bit of weight. I just wanted to get a little bit more healthy. So we move along, and then say you get to right in the middle, right when you've lost the weight. You're not super fit yet or anything like that, but you've lost the weight, you're no longer obese, so you're right in the middle. If all you try to do is just, I'm gonna stay here in the middle, I don't wanna move forward at all, and I definitely don't wanna move backward, I just wanna stay in the middle. It is so hard to just stay where you are. It is so hard to be like, I don't want to get any more fit, and I'm sure people don't think like, I don't want to get fit, but all they think about is, I don't want to go back here. I don't want to go back to being obese. I don't want to go back there. But think about it like this. If you think to yourself, I want to get closer to this, I want to get closer to being as fit as possible, it's just so much easier to not move back, because you're moving a little bit forward, a little bit forward, a little bit forward, a little bit forward, and you're not like thinking about looking back. It just doesn't make sense, because now you're closer to this. You're closer to being as fit as you possibly can. So why would you even look back or be afraid of that? Because now you're moving in the other way, right? So I know that's super cheesy and it's probably not the best representation of what I'm trying to say, but that's literally how I think, and that's where my mind has gone after, you know, losing the weight and keeping it off for like 4 years. For those of you that might be wondering, like, how do I become proactive instead of just reactive? I've kind of mentioned most of these in the video already, but my first tip would be try and set goals that are not weight loss related, so that are like performance related. Like I've said, try and be like, okay, I want to run a 5K and get this time, or whatever it might be that you enjoy fitness as, right? Whatever that is, try and set goals like that are not just, I don't want to gain weight. that is seriously probably, for me, has been the biggest thing when it comes to not gaining weight back, because that's like, I'm not even thinking about that. I'm thinking, how can I get faster? How can I get stronger? How can I, all of those things. Tip number 2 is that I think it's important to understand that you can't lose weight forever. Like, I think it's really important to not get caught up in the thought of like, I always have to lose weight, I always have to lose weight, because hopefully eventually you will end up hitting the goal weight that you set for yourself, or you get to a point where you're like, I'm healthy. And it's really important when you get there, and even before you get there, to start trying to switch that mindset to being like, instead of I need to lose weight, think about what other goals can I attain to maybe keep the weight off, but then, you know, go in that other direction, try and get more fit. My final tip for being proactive instead of reactive is just to understand that when you do mess up, because it will happen, like, we all make mistakes, we all do things that maybe we shouldn't do when we're trying to lose weight or when we're trying to keep weight off. Just understand how insignificant one mess up is going to be in the long run, especially if you want to keep this weight off for the rest of your life and you want to, you know, eventually move from being obese to hopefully being as fit as you possibly can. Just understand how insignificant one little mess up is, and don't get hung up on it, and don't dwell on it, because if you dwell on something that's happened in the past, like, there's literally no positive out of that. You know, learn from a mistake, yeah, that's definitely good, but don't dwell on a mistake, because that is not gonna do you any good in the future. That's gonna be the video today, you guys. Thank you so much for watching. I think it's so important to try not to live in fear, but instead look to the future with excitement and try and set goals for yourself that make you really, really excited instead of fearful. But again, thank you so much for watching. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. There's one other thing that I wanted to say. Oh yeah, look how buff I am.
Obey the warning signs, and when there are flashing lights or wigwags, don't attempt to cross until they come to a complete stop.